Lay down. Die. You will be reborn. Lay down. Risk it. We have this fear that we're not going to rise again like the phoenix. It's not just a fairy tale. It's not just this mystical story that lives inside us. Go ahead, lay down, die, see what happens. And it's so funny. Like when you come back, I've come back like 3 times. Like you are ready to like really go at it. Like anybody, I'll take anybody right now. I just died and I'm back. It's such a feeling of freedom to do that and have gone through that gauntlet like that and been reborn. It's beautiful.
Our ego is what makes us the perfectionist, and I think all of us hold ourselves to like an ideal, right? We have an ideal, which is a should. I should be here. I should be here by now. I should be great. This should happen, and this it should. And should is bullshit because it doesn't exist, because it's the future, and the future doesn't exist yet. So there you are, not present, And so that anytime you're shoulding yourself, which I did a whole show about shoulding, and my, and you hold yourself to an ideal, you're not accepting what is. And you need to start accepting what is, and what is right now, right? Because what is actually good enough. What is actually the truth right now. So when you start to accept what is, which is this is where I'm at right now, you can grow from there. You can grow from right now. You can't grow from an ideal or an idea of future that doesn't exist. And it should, and it's based on some shit you believed you got from a long time ago when you were this big. So when you acknowledge that's where that came from a long time ago, you can start loving yourself today from right now and accepting where you're at right now. And that is you in reality, not in blah, blah land, And so if you accept what is, you're loving yourself from where you are right now. You will not be in perfectionism. You will not give yourself a hard time. You will not be like, you will be able to grow from this space onward. And so, and all we are here for, every single one of us, is to grow. Period. It's to grow and to learn every day of our lives. Nobody's done, my friend. Nobody's done. We're not done yet. You're never going to be done. On your deathbed, you're going to go, you know what? I got something I got to tell you. You know what I mean? It's the truth. We're never going to be done. And so stop getting in the result, because the result that also doesn't exist.
I would say stop thinking that you're going to do the greatest solo show ever, because that will stop you in your tracks. Just lower the bar on that and be willing, because one of the things that loosened me up, seeing this other show, that was bad. It was bad. She had this moment that just didn't make sense. Whatever, I'm not going to get into it. But I was just like, that sucked. But when she came out, I was like, good for you! Because she did her shitty show. I was still trying to make this amazing show and sitting at home going, oh God, it could suck. What am I going to do? So lower the bar for that reason. That just loosened me up. It's like, you know what? I just got to do the show. I don't even care if it's good or bad. Just want to do it, because I was 5 years. I was like, because of perfectionism, I guess.
Wow, it took you 5 years to put it together.
No, just to have the guts to do it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, exactly. So it was brewing, like Mitzi said. I was like, what is it going to be? And then I did it within 3 months. And then did a second show 6 months later.
Right.
But it was the got to do the best show ever that I was in prison for. So that would be the first thing to do. And then the other thing that loosened me up was being of service with my show. Because the other thing, the solo show, man, I'm going to bust out and I'm going to have a career in movies and TV. Woo! Money! And that, was like, no. I was going to open up the gates to like a new universe. So who can handle that? So, too much pressure. So with that, I couldn't write because it had to meet that bar, and it was all about me. So then I was like, okay, if I were gonna get shot and killed at the end of the show, what would I like? Where there was no money, nothing at stake at the end of it. What would I want the impact to be? Would I want to get an agent or all those things, or would I want someone to say, oh my God, that show changed my life? And so when I made it about helping that person who needed to hear my story, then I could write. And that has been the sort of where I start off with any show that I'm going to write. It's like, okay, who needs to hear this? Because I think about them, then it's like, yes, I must tell my story. When it's about me, I can't write. I just can't. So yeah, make it of service and do a crappy show, because it won't be crappy. because if, as long as you're honest.
For so long, I was hoping and praying that the world would accept me, take me into their club, let me be a part of what they're doing, because you grow up and you admire these things. And
Right,
you so
right,
badly want to be a part of it.
right.
And so sometimes you don't see what your gifts are, what your truest value is. I was missing that for a long,
Because you
long
keep
time.
looking for that outside validation, and it really is about your validation and you honoring you. So that's beautiful.
If I'm writing something, I say, "Oh, I hope they like this. Hope they like." That's energy. That's taken away from what I'm writing. That's taken away from what I can write and then give it. And whoever receives it, whoever needs it, whoever is transformed by it or from it, then I've done my job. That is our first and foremost purpose, I believe, to give service to one another, to be a light for one another, especially those that you love and that love you. I was given the opportunity to express myself so that in me expressing my gifts, that it will transform your life so you can continue to express yours in this lifetime. And that I want to do it always and be the best person that I'm capable of being from a place of love and a place of kindness. I don't always succeed. And if I don't succeed, I apologize. I'm working through stuff too. It depends on, what day it is, but I'm not a vicious person. I'm a loving person. I get that from my family, my mom and my dad and my sisters. We're a loving family. And my friends. And I want to always be a light, be of service. And I appreciate the opportunities to be able to do that whenever I can. And I'm grateful for that. And that's the legacy I want to leave.
I almost died 3 years ago. And so when I realized I wasn't going to die and I was going to get my health back slowly but surely, I mean, I was really laying in my bed going, God, if I can get back up to do any part of this, tell any part of this story, be influential in any kind of positive way, I'm going to get my butt back up and do it. And, for me now, like when I perform, maybe my body is not physically at top notch that it was when the show was born or when I did it at Greenway 4 years ago. But I had to let perfectionism, just glad to be up and have that opportunity. And for me now, also knowing how the story hits people, how much it means to others, because it's not just my story in the story. So I have to go, hey, I'm going to let people have it. And, I'm not perfectly svelte and, my character's voice is not absolutely on point like it used to be maybe. But I'm still going to get up and do it and give it to God, do everything I can to be present. So that changed it all for me on the perfectionism pieces as a performing artist. Now we got some work to do as a screenwriter. But yeah, so.
It's also important to have other interests. Like I love music. I love to roller skate. And I feel like I come back to stand up a better woman because I've done other things that bring me joy.
Yes.
Stand up, not saying it doesn't bring me joy because it does bring me joy, but it's also putting food on my table as well. And sometimes, it's like a relationship, like you don't want to be up on your man all day, every day. You want that dude to go out and do something. Like, go. Go, aren't your boys doing something right now?
I need
Don't
a
you
break.
got a game to watch? Like, go. And when you leave it and you come back, it just makes it so much sweeter.
Sometimes people are just starting out, but their raw approach to things, very inspiring. And it reminds you to let go of this idea that it has to be this way. They have no idea. They just create it from their heart. So it brings you back.
Turn the critic off. That you got to turn that critic off. And it always stood with me. It's like, so when that voice comes, you know, to tell you you're an imposter or you can't do something or there's, you know, there's something wrong with you or you don't fit in or blah, 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 to just shut it down, to just say, oh, no, you're not paying rent here. You got to go. Just kick it out. But I love that book. I found that book to be such a shift changer for me as an artist, to step into myself, to take ownership, and to not take anything, you know, not to take things personal, and to understand that my best is always going to be different depending on how I feel. You know, because if you feel fantastic, then your best is going to be out there. But if you feel sick, your best may only be 50%, and you gotta cut yourself some slack about it.
Perfectionism for me is ruminating and getting stuck and idle, and the paralysis. It's real and it's heavy, and it's cost me dearly in the process of my projects, and so I have to actively work on it's this having an endpoint, and it's ready, and we're going, because I can still and you know, is it okay, and you know, and it's when I see other people with the freedom of just trusting that something that I'm like, your guys are okay with okay, then, you know, it's like wait a second, I'm just putting too much like this as opposed to just letting it flow. And when you do that, it's you know, it's freeing, and it's a process for me. It's not something that flows easily. You know, I still battle is it ready, it has to be like this, the details. It served me well in certain aspects of it,
Right.
Were essential, and it, you know, rewarded for it, but I have to be careful of where it's appropriate and when it slows the process down.
That's why I used to leave the auditions, and I would kick my ass for a week or a month, depending how bad I wanted that role. And I realized later, I was not in control.
You abandoned yourself.
I abandoned myself out of fear that what I had to offer was not good enough. I didn't trust my choices, and that was my biggest mistake.
Mentally, I pretend as if I already have the job and that this is just a formality.
It's good.
But it really helps me. It helps me not get in my head, because up here, you know, in this world, where they're having meetings all the time.
Board meetings. Yes.
About me. You know, I can really spiral down.
It's not about being, you know, going out there, I'm gonna become a star. Oh my god, when they see me do these 7 characters, they're gonna like, I'm gonna blow their mind. It's what's gonna happen. You know, and the reality is that, you know, you're an artist first.
Perfectionism, right, leads to paralysis. So, and perfectionism, it's not just about, oh, this has to be perfect. It comes out in all sorts of ways, whether it's to protect myself or I don't like that. It's hiding it. It's a shapeshifter. But tiny baby steps and letting go of the results, like really celebrating the fact that I took a tiny step. It's not easy to do, because it's like, that's nothing, I can do so much more. And it's like, really, Superwoman, so why aren't you doing jack for like the past year on whatever it is I've been a perfectionist about. So tiny steps, celebrate, and celebrate myself for taking the action, not the results of it.
That's right.
Work gives me pleasure, because actors, when we do creative stuff, it's like a drug. You become addicted to the creative work, because it's never the same from one day to another, and you're always exploring the human soul and the human mind and how people behave.
Never boring.
Never boring, you know, that's the thing.
Pay attention to how you're feeling about yourself. Like if you have a lot of insecurity or fear around the thing that you really want to do, pay attention to your unconscious beliefs about yourself. What it is that you believe about yourself. Who do you think really belongs doing this? Is it you, or is it somebody else? What are those people like? You know, are they the rich ones, the talent, the pretty ones? Who are those people? You know, because you've got to get down to what your fears are, your unconscious fears are. And then when you do that, you get confidence and you become fearless in a real way. And you can come from underground and bring your stuff overground and share it.
I really don't sweat the little things. If I don't have a solution, well, one will come. I'm old enough now to know and to trust and believe it gets better. We see the actual proof from our life history. This is not the end. It gets better. It's going to come back around. I don't know why we get stuck like, oh my God, this is it. We're going to stay here in this shitty place for the rest of our life. We're not.
But I think in your 20s and even your 30s, no one shares that with you.
No, I share it all the time now.
Yeah, I do too.
With the 20-year-old.
That's right.
I share it constantly because I would hate for them to have to go through what I went through.
Yes, because they can't see past tomorrow. Or sometimes they can't even see past today. I didn't get that job. Oh my God, my life is over. It's like there's just certain things that when you come to LA in your 20s that you get caught up in. It's a great thing to be able to say, hey, don't take it serious. Just work on your craft. To be present, to love yourself, and to get out of the shoulds, and to not be putting all your attention into the future. This is what it is now. To if you walk in those 4 pillars, how amazing of an artist do you become?
That's right.
Because you're so present.
That's
you're
right.
so tuned in.
You're listening.
And your expectations are not jacking you up.
That's right. That's right. And then because your expectations jacking you up, you judge everybody else in your life. Right? That's what you do.
That's right.
You judge everybody else. So if you're judging
That's
yourself
right.
and you're shutting yourself, you are shutting everybody else in your life.
That's right.
You know, and so then these people, they're not enough for you. You're not enough for me. 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 Because you are, because you're not accepting what is for you. If you're in the future, then these people are like, what are you doing here? What are you guys? Do you know what I mean? You're not good enough. If you're not good enough, then they're not good enough. And that's no way to live. And people don't want to be around that. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
But if you accept you, I'm going to accept you and you and you and you and you and you for wherever you are right now.
My favorite thing to say is be the thermostat and not the thermometer. And that's what stand-up taught me was to be the thermostat. You know, I set the tone, not the audience. Because I would say probably the first couple of years, I let the audience dictate how my show would go. If it was a hot, if the audience was hot and I came on and they gave me love, woo, I was on. But if I came on or I had to follow someone like Arsenio Hall or Andrew Dice Clay, the audience automatically hated me because they wanted more of whoever that big name comic was.
He was like, so how often are you getting up? And I said, I get up as much as I can, Mr. Wallace. He said, get up as most as you can. So my advice, so I'm going to give you the advice that George Wallace gave you. He said, get up as most as you can.
Amen.
That's the key right there. It's the timing, it's the consistency. And just not letting up. Malcolm Gladwell, what's the book where he talks about the 10,000 hours? That's a real thing.
Yes.
You might not reach the exact number of 10,000 hours.
Right, but it's doing it regularly till it feels like it's second nature to you.
Yeah, it's a muscle.
Yes. Yeah,
and you have to. It'll atrophy if you don't use it. I feel the rustiness. I was in Syracuse for a month and didn't do any shows, and so I did a Zoom show, but you don't feel. You feel the rustiness, you feel the awkwardness, and it's like it's something that you have to continually do.
I think when you're creating stuff that you need the security to do your art. That maybe some of that perfectionism is that you don't feel safe. Right. You don't feel secure. You don't feel you don't feel like it's going to be okay. So it shows up in different ways. And what I realized was that I didn't give my baby a full birth because I felt threatened. So it wasn't so much perfectionism, but I felt threatened. So I was like, not time yet. Yeah. And bad critiques, taking bad critiques, and then going, I knew that's not right, so I'm going to put it away now because that's not right. I whatever you said ain't right. I'm ready. So that is the thing.
Self-care. You have to, because we have to love ourselves, because there is a lot of rejection. There is a lot of competition. We have to love ourselves and love who we are. We have to take it. We have to find our spiritual foundation, whatever that is. God, source, Buddha, whatever it is, Jesus, whatever it is. Everybody got their thing. Everybody marches to a different drummer. So you got to go with what works for you. So I say, you got to have a strong spiritual base, something that keeps you grounded, something that keeps you loving yourself and not focusing on man. And like you said earlier, accepting what somebody else or somebody says something to you, for you to ingest that, for you to take that on.
Disconnect. It's disconnecting from others so that you can show up in your best.
Being here now and loving and accepting what is. And so I think that's a really important thing. When I had a big epiphany about that and an awareness about that, I mean, if I was late, 10 minutes late, I'd start laughing at myself. I'd be like, yeah, you're late. You get late sometimes. And that's not totally true, but like, it's an example. You're late. So you laugh about it. And it turns out it comes from a really authentic place, an honest place. Because maybe, whatever, for something about you from when you were a kid or whatever, oh, that's right, and then all of a sudden it becomes you can be easy with yourself. You can laugh at it. You can move forward. And then you can and then the next thing you know, you're not late anymore because you've accepted what is. When you don't accept what it is, whatever you resist persists. That's how life goes. So whatever somebody you don't want to see in the world, you're going to see them on Thursday, okay? You'll see them on Thursday night, trust me. You know what I mean? So accept what is, and stop, and so get out of that whole mentality. And so that's what I say. And I think that's a huge lesson for me and any one of us who want to keep doing that.
We're not plumbers. Plumber takes a pipe, a 6-inch pipe with an 8-inch pipe. They put it together with a clamp and it works and the water goes through. Actors, it's all out in the cosmos. We never know what's going to work. That's why we experiment. That's why we try things. That's why there's a lot of tape in the cameras and stuff, because you succeed, you fail. You succeed, but if you're not willing to fail, you're going to be boring. So you got to really try to shake it up.
Being creator, especially as a solo performer, right? You're up there by yourself, right? And first you're by yourself on the page, and it's frightening. So even though, I've written 4 shows, and I'm amazed that each time I write, it's like I've never written another one. All of those feelings come up again. So just because you do get a handle on being present or doing whatever mantra you need to do, doesn't mean solved, I can do this again. Because especially if you're growing and you're taking with each show or each project going deeper and further, it's going to come up again. So just have a set of tools that you can revisit, whether it's being present or praying or crying, or, sometimes you just have to, that's just part of the creative process. It can be painful and you're back to, being with your perfectionism again. It just happens. Just like with a couple, you're married or whatever, you're together. It doesn't mean, we resolved that fight. That was wonderful, that you're never going to fight again. It's just part of growing. Yeah. Every time new level, new devil. It's just going to happen.
And hopefully you have better tools every time you get.
You just get better at them.
And you take the action. You don't let them win. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, is that you don't let them keep you from doing what you want to do in the world.
No, the scariest and best metaphor has been like, when we're getting stronger, the devil's doing push-ups. Like, I got you. The faster, the smarter you get, so does the devil.
The devil is the ego. It's your ego. That's
whatever. It meets you right where you are. Exactly. So don't expect it to go, if it's there, that you're doing anything wrong.
Right.
It's just going to show up.
Right. It's process.
Because it doesn't like to grow and it doesn't like change. The ego likes everything the same. And so as soon as you start doing something that's unfamiliar, something that's new, something that's challenging, your ego's going to jump up and it's going to be the loudest voice you've ever heard in your life. And it's a growl, and it's mean, and it's condescending, and then that's when you got to go, you know what's good about this? That means I'm stepping out of what's familiar and what's comfortable, and I'm doing something different and challenging. And that is a gift. And when you realize that, you can tell the ego to take a nap on its cot in the back, which is where mine goes. Carl. He's got to take a nap in the back on a cot. He's got his own cot.